The battle raged across the crystalline plains of Zelda Prime, where jagged formations of blue-tinted stone jutted from the ground like frozen lightning. Plasma fire streaked through the thin atmosphere, painting arcs of green and gold against the purple sky. The Draxian Imperium had come for the mining colony, and the human mercenary company known as the Iron Ghosts had been contracted to hold the line. Cara Valen moved through the chaos with practiced efficiency, her rifle barking in controlled bursts. She was 32 cycles old by human reckoning, with dark hair pulled tight against her scalp and eyes the color of steel. Around her, Draxian warriors, 8-foot-tall reptilian beings with obsidian scales and 4 arms, pressed their assault with savage determination. Their numbers were overwhelming, but Cara had faced worse odds before. "Fall back to secondary positions." Her squad leader's voice crackled through her helmet cum. "We can't hold this line!" Cara squeezed off 3 more rounds, watching 2 Draxian soldiers collapse before she began her tactical retreat. The human defenders were outnumbered 5-1, but their superior tactics and adaptability had kept the Imperium at bay for 6 standard hours. That record was about to end. Then she heard a sound that cut through the din of battle like a knife through silence. A child's scream. Cara's head snapped toward the sound. High above the battlefield, on a crumbling observation tower that had taken indirect fire, a small figure clung to a piece of damaged railing. Even from this distance, Cara could see the distinctive copper-colored fur and the 2 large eyes that marked the figure as a Keltheran cub. The Keltheran were a warrior race, proud and fierce, but their young were vulnerable quadrupedal until they reached adolescence, unable to navigate vertical surfaces effectively. The cub it couldn't have been more than 4 cycles old lost its grip. Time seemed to fracture. Cara watched the small body tumble through the air, tiny limbs flailing. Around her, the battle continued. Draxian warriors advanced. Human soldiers retreated. Plasma bolts crossed the space between them in deadly trajectories. Cara didn't think. She simply moved. Her rifle clattered to the ground as she broke into a sprint. Her tactical computer screamed warnings. She was running into the open, abandoning cover, making herself a target. She ignored it all. Her eyes tracked the falling cub, calculating angles and velocity with the unconscious precision of someone who had spent 15 years in combat. The cub's scream had changed from terror to a high-pitched wail. Cara's boots hammered against the crystalline ground, each step propelling her forward with desperate speed. She was 40 meters away. 30, 20. On both sides of the battlefield, warriors paused. A Draxian commander, his 4 arms wrapped around a heavy plasma cannon, stopped mid-fire. A human sniper, her finger on the trigger, froze. The battle didn't stop, not entirely, but something fundamental shifted in that moment. They were all watching her. Cara Dove, arms outstretched, sliding across the jagged ground. The cub's trajectory brought it down toward a cluster of razor-sharp crystal formations, a death sentence for something so small and fragile. Cara's ribs screamed as she collided with the ground, her armor scraping across stone, but her arms remained steady. She caught the cub 3 feet from the ground. The impact drove the breath from her lungs. The cub's claws dug into her armor, sharp enough to score the composite plating. But Cara held on, rolling with the momentum, curling her body around the small form to shield it from the worst of the landing. They came to rest against a low stone formation. Cara's back pressed against the crystal, the cub trembling in her arms. For 3 full seconds, the battlefield was silent. Cara looked down at the cub in her arms. Large golden eyes stared back at her, still wide with terror but beginning to focus. The little Keltheran's copper fur was matted with dust, and its small chest heaved with rapid breaths. It couldn't have weighed more than 20 pounds. "You're okay," Cara whispered, her voice rough. "I've got you." The cub made a small chirping sound and pressed closer to her chest. When Cara looked up, her breath caught. Every weapon on the battlefield, Draxian and human alike, was pointed directly at her position. Dozens of muzzles, plasma cannons, and energy rifles, all trained on the exact spot where she knelt with the cub in her arms. In the sudden silence, she could hear the hum of charging capacitors, the whisper of targeting computers acquiring locks. She was dead. There was no cover, no way to fight back, no possibility of escape. She had made herself the most obvious target on the entire battlefield, and now both sides had her in their sights. Cara tightened her grip on the cub and waited. A figure emerged from the Draxian lines. He was massive, even for his species. With decorative scars carved into his obsidian scales and the golden shoulder pauldrons that marked him as a high commander. His forearms moved in a complex gesture, and every Draxian weapon began to lower. "Ceasefire!" The commander's voice boomed across the battlefield, translated instantly by universal comm systems. All Draxian forces, weapons down, now. On the human side, Kara's squad leader gave a similar order. Slowly, cautiously, the forest of weapons pointing at Kara began to disappear. The Draxian commander walked across the no-man's land between the battle lines, his arms spread wide to show he carried no weapons. He stopped 10 feet from Kara and dropped to one knee, bringing his massive head level with hers. "That is Cub Torek," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Third offspring of Warmaster Keleth of the Keltheran clans, our allies," his eyes triple-pupiled, and the color of molten amber fixed on Kara with an intensity that made her spine straighten. "You abandoned tactical advantage. You abandoned safety. You made yourself vulnerable to save a child that is not even of your species." Kara said nothing. The cub chirped again, nuzzling against her armor. The Draxian commander stood and turned to address both armies. "I am Commander Vexthal of the Draxian Imperium. I hereby call a ceasefire. This battle is over." He looked back at Kara. "Any species that values a child's life above victory in battle is not an enemy. It is a teacher." From the human lines, Kara's squad leader emerged, disbelief clear in his body language. "Commander, what are you saying?" "I am saying," Vexthal replied, "that perhaps we have been fighting the wrong war." Kara struggled to her feet, still cradling Cub Torek. The little Keltheran had stopped trembling and was now looking around with curious eyes. Other Keltheran warriors, she hadn't even noticed them embedded with the Draxian forces, were approaching cautiously, their weapons lowered. One of them, a female with darker copper fur and captain's insignia, reached Kara first. Tears streamed down her furred face. "Torek," she breathed. "My son." Kara gently transferred the cub to his mother's arms. The reunion was immediate and emotional, the mother making soft cooing sounds as she checked her child for injuries. Torek chirped and chirruped, apparently unharmed despite his ordeal. The Keltheran captain looked at Kara with eyes that held something between awe and disbelief. You caught him. In the middle of battle. You didn't hesitate." Kara shrugged, wincing as her bruised ribs protested. "He was falling. What else was I supposed to do?" And that, Kara would later reflect, was when she learned that humans had a reputation problem in the galaxy. Most species saw them as efficient soldiers, clever tacticians, dangerous mercenaries. But in that moment, on that battlefield, she had accidentally revealed something deeper, something that other species found simultaneously incomprehensible and profound. Humans would abandon rational self-interest to protect children. Any children, even in the middle of a firefight, even at personal cost. Even for species they had never met before. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't tactical. It was simply human. Commander Vexthal was true to his word. Within 2 hours, treaty negotiations had begun. Within 2 days, the Draxian Imperium had withdrawn from Zelda Prime. Within 2 weeks, the first human-Draxian cultural exchange programs were being established. And it all started because Kara Valen caught a falling cub mid-battle, and every warrior on that field redirected their aim, not at her, but at their own assumptions about what it meant to be human.